Good evening and welcome to another in the series of TalkSports where we sit down and discuss with the movers and shakers of sports in Grenada. This week, our guest is Shalrie Joseph, the former Grenada and New England Revolution footballer. Shalrie also had a 2 year stint as head coach of the Grenada national team, also called the Spice Boys, and most recently, he has been hired as an academy coach with the New England Revolution. Recall the discussions with Shalrie began in late 2017, and in March of 2018, it was announced by the Grenada Football Association that Shalrie will assume the coaching duties of the national football team. It wasn't a smooth ride at the start as head coach, but Shalrie kept faith in his mission to improve the standard of football among his national players. Overall, the former New England Revolution midfielder, he made 261 appearances in addition to 20 international caps for Grenada between 2002 and 2008. He was not named to the Spice Boys roster for the 2009 Gold Cup and did not come off the bench in 3 group games in 2011. Shalrie is a 4-time MLS Best 11 player and was honored multiple times as Grenada's Player of the Year as well as Caribbean Player of the Year in 2007. Shalrie, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I look forward to talking about some stuff in the past and the present, and just catching up on where I'm at in my life and what's going on in the world.
Okay, well, we always tend to give historical background, and I will ask you at what age you began playing football and what actually attracted you to that sport instead of cricket or basketball or even track and field, which were dominant sporting disciplines in Grenada.
I think I started around like 5 years old, and it was more like just being around my friends. Growing up in Rivera, growing up in Davao to be specific, the field was right in front of us, and it made it very easy for me to just walk down the yard and just go play. And I had friends that loved soccer too, and I think what attracted me was the freedom to express myself and being able to play with my friends growing up. We all played a little bit of cricket and basketball here, but for me, it was always soccer that gravitated towards it. And I just enjoy and I love playing soccer from day one. And I was fortunate enough to be around people that love the game too, like Patty, Nixon, Corey, Bo Peep, all these guys, childhood friends who really taught me and helped me grow my game at even a young age.
Well, you mentioned a couple names there, and some people may be wondering who you're speaking about. So when he said Patty, he referred to Patrick Modeste. When he said Bo Peep, Ron Joseph, then there is also Anthony Modeste, Nixon, and they are all former national players. They played with Shalrie at a young age, and they all moved up as youth players into the national team. But you made the transition from Grenada to the United States at a very young age, Shalrie. What kept that interest in football during those early years?
I think just going to when I moved to Brooklyn, my mother took me from Grenada, and when I moved to Brooklyn. I went to high school in George W. Wingate, and just being there, the kind of culture it had, it was a lot of Caribbean players. There was a lot of Caribbean students that was going to that school at that time. So we all had the same interest in soccer, and when we walked to school, it was a soccer field right on our right. So we would stop there when we can and play soccer, whether it be before or after school. That kind of helped me to learn a lot about the students and a lot about the players back then. So it wasn't a matter of something else like basketball or baseball or even NFL. It was always soccer because that was in my blood from day one, and my family played it. Even though Zagada, Randy, Ricky, Rudolph, all of those boys played the soccer game at a young age, so that kind of helped me. And it wasn't a matter of other things taking my interest. It was soccer in just in this family blood, and that kind of stayed when I went to Brooklyn itself.
Well, again, you mentioned another name, Zagada. That's Zagada Cyrus, as well. A lot of folks will know. I was one of the architect in terms of national football. He played a lot of football for the national team, and it's your uncle, right?
Yes, he
Um,
is.
and obviously, a lot came out of that family in terms of national representation because you had on the male side you have those playing football, and then on the female side you are playing netball, like your mother, your aunts, all of those, right?
Yes, that's correct. It was in the blood. I think it's in the DNA from our family to the Modest family or the other Joseph family. We all grew up just playing sports, and it's obviously a huge influence in Grenada, whether it be cricket or basketball. But I think being from Grenada, soccer was one of the main passion and one of the passionate things that kept me going. And I understand how important it was at a young age that this can give me and this can lead me to other things. And fortunately, it did. It panned out that way, and I was just grateful that my passion was a game that my family played and my family loved so much too.
Okay, and the, if you can provide us a sort of step by step, high school to college to the professional league, ultimately MLS, how it actually was.
When I finished high school, there was a lot of interest in what I'm going to do, or am I going to continue to play in Brooklyn, or would I leave New York? And I had offers from coming out of high school. I had offers from different colleges in terms of they recruiting me and they giving me visited. They giving me visits. I visited schools in North Carolina. I visited schools in Queens, which was right around the corner. But at some point, I didn't really want to go to school after I finished high school, so I kind of hesitated and delayed my decision on whether or not to go to school. And then before school started, it was like a week before school started, I decided, you know what, I need to go to school. And my mother urged me, like, you need to have an education. And thankfully, she pressured me to go to school. So I end up upstate Syracuse with a lot of my high school friends that went to George W. Wingate High School. We end up in a 2-year college called Brandon Stratton, and I met my uncle went there, Randy went there, and a lot of my friends from high school went there. And we did so well. Everett Watts went there too from Grenada, one of the best players I played with at a young age. We all went to that school and we did so well for the school that even more colleges started recruiting me. And I had to decide where I want to go to the college even more now. So I decided St. John's to come back to New York, and I went to St. John's University in Queens, which was coached by Dave Mazer, and the spotlight was on me from day one when I entered that school, and I lived up to the expectation. I did well. I scored a lot of goals. I played different positions. I learned a lot from that coach, from Coach Meza, and just having some great friends. I made some great friends at that school at St. John's University, which I attended for 2 years. And when I was finished school, I had to make another decision whether to enter the MLS draft or to try to take my talent overseas. So I did want to go to overseas. I went overseas. I went to Germany, trained for 2 months. I went to Italy, trained for a little bit. I was offered contract, but the team went bankrupt. Germany, I got offered a contract, but the language barrier was a huge problem. So going over there and training for that while, it definitely helped, and it groomed me and it made me into a better soccer player. But I didn't want to go to the MLS where they drafted me. New England Revolution had my rights, and they drafted me 12 overall in the second round. I didn't want to go to the MLS because the pay structure was very poor and it was very bad back then. After coming out of college, I understand that you don't make a lot of money, but it was really low. So I didn't want to go, and that's why I ended up overseas training and trying to pursue those teams over there. But when it didn't work out overseas, I came back to New England. I came back to Boston, and I told them like, this is what I want to do. This is who I am. And me and Steve Nicker hit it off right off from day one because it was his first year as a head coach. Even though the previous years he was the assistant coach under Fernando, and so me and Stevie hit it off right away. And he told me, this is what I can do for you. Just come to work every day and work hard and give me your best, and I'll make you into a professional one day. And when I got to New England, I just put my head down and tied my cleats up and worked hard to become who I am today.
So you will consider Stevie to be one of your mentors then?
Yeah, he was a huge influence in who I became. He's huge. He allowed me to be who I were, and to be who I am, and that's a huge thing about coaching, coaching professional and coaching young players at that time, which I was, is making sure that you give them the freedom to express themselves, the freedom to be creative and to be who they are, and making sure that you teach them the game while you're doing that. And he had a hand on my shoulder in everything I did, especially in the Boston region. He brought a great team together. He brought some excellent players and some young players and mixed them with some veteran. And he knew how to get the best out of players. He understands players' mentality, and he understands how to treat players on and off the field. And that's one of the things that he inputted into that team. He gave us the style. He gave us a lot of freedom to be who we were, not just on the field but off the field. More importantly, to make sure that we were in a great place and to be happy. We needed to be happy off the field so we can express ourselves on the field. And once that stuff happening, he got the best of the players. He thought that would work together and form a bond and form a unit together. And we were able to do that for several years, which made us one of the top teams in the MLS, which allowed us to enter four championship. We got to four MLS Cup championship. And even though we didn't win, it was just some of the best teams I've been around because we were so consistent and so good at each and every position. It allowed us to be a great team.
But even before you got into the MLS, Shalrie, it would have
Mhm.
been, you would agree, it wasn't that easy, it wasn't that smooth, and you had the opportunity also to play in other leagues even before getting into the MLS.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I know I fast forward a lot of things, I skip over, but to get to a professional level, it's so much hard work and it's so much dedication, and you got to be able to commit yourself morning, night, and day to becoming a professional. Whether you're 16, 18, or 21, or you get an opportunity, it takes a lot of hard work. And I was just I was surrounded by some great talent and some people that really pushed me from my family and some friends who understand my goal and my dreams was to become a professional, and they helped me achieve that by some staying out of my way and some giving me extra push, some providing financial support. Guys like Dalton, Skinny Jones. I remember coming to New York and my mother would let me hang out with him, and he was a grown man, and we all hang out with him at his house, and he was tell us about his life story and how he became he was a cricketer, and he was just there for us as a mentor. And but then people have to understand it takes a lot to become great at something. And for me, I felt I was at some point the best player in the MLS, and at some point, and not just some point, at a couple of years where you can look at the stats and see I was, in my opinion, the best player in MLS for a lot of years. To see someone from the Caribbean, a small island like Grenada, being able to dominate for a team and dominate a league, it took a lot, and I was just grateful that I had the opportunity to do that.
Okay, if we can just go back a little, Shalrie, you know, I realize that you're probably not on land, and nice hat though. But
Thank
where
you.
where are you, and how have you been spending your time during the pandemic, the whole lockdown?
Right now, I'm on a big yacht. I'm just relaxing. I'm been fortunate enough to know some good people who show their kindness and sincerity to me. So I've been able to get a vacation for the last couple of days. But with the pandemic going on, obviously no teams have been in training. So I've been able to do a lot of individual training and one-on-one training or small groups of two training for the last couple of weeks since the pandemic hit the world. Let me say, I have a backyard that I've been able to do it, so I'm not going to no fields or any park or anything like that. I have a big enough space where it's literally a field in the backyard. So I've been able to coach kids there and work on the one-on-one and just understand what it takes to become a star, to become a professional. I've been able to teach players, and for me, the biggest thing about being in a team concept game is you have to have the individuals to do it. And for me, I've been able to coach one or two individuals pretty much every day for the last 2 months, 2.5 months, and I've just started focusing and dedicating myself to becoming a better soccer coach by coaching more individuals and understanding how individuals see life from U12 to U13 to all different age groups of professionals. I've been working with the last 2.5 months to just work on the game and fine tune the game. So when MLS started up, which it did yesterday, I'm able to help some MLS professionals. And when the academy soccer started up in a week or two, I've been able to help them. And hopefully when college start up in September, I can help these young players become better at their craft.
Oh, so you actually started already in terms of the first team, and then to the academy, and even those at the college as well, right?
Yeah, I've been working with a lot of college players and then academy players, and I got to work with one or two other Revolution players before they left for the bubble in Orlando. I got to see a lot of those guys, and I saw them in February working as a team before COVID hit, I saw them how great they were, how good New England looked, and I know tonight they play, so I'm going to be glued after this. I'll find a TV and I'll be watching them play tonight. But soccer is my passion. Soccer is what I love the most, and so I've dedicated myself to making sure I do the things that will help me grow and help me become a better soccer coach.
So you're back in Boston now. You into coaching at the academy level with your former team, the New England Revolution. So should we say that you finished in terms of coaching Grenada? It's official.
Yeah, I think they made it official probably since last year, November, when they had the opportunity to really show that they care and they really showed that they wanted me back. Because I remember since November 18, I think November 17 was the last day. November 18, I didn't even want to take a day off to relax and enjoy what we did. I was literally trying to talk to the president of GFA and tell him, like, let's talk about renewing my contract. And this was in November, and I was like waiting for a response. I didn't get back anything, and it pretty much it came down to Anthony Modeste, who set up a meeting with me and Chenny, my assistant coach, which I'm forever grateful for what he's done. I haven't talked to him in a while, but thank you, Anthony Wallace. I must say that. And Desmond Noel and all my staff in particular, Mr. Lee. But to get back to the point, it was in November, late November, and I was asking the DFA to let's talk about renewing my contract, and nothing concrete came out in November. December came, nothing was going on. January, nothing was going on. So I'm like, it's 3 months. It's 3 months gone since I've had to request my contract. We met one time in Estes on the beach. Talked to the president about it. I thought it was a go. Nothing happened. February come around, and I'm like, it's literally 14 days left on my contract. What's going on? What's going on? Nothing came around. So I was like, they're not serious. They don't show their commitment. They're not willing to commit to me after what I've done. And in February, I returned to Boston, and that's when New England really started putting ideas in my head. Like, you know what? You can do this. You can come back. Because they changed around their staff, and changed around their staff, and then I met with the GM, I met with Bruce, and they were like, you guys, you can come back and work with us, and they offered me the opportunity, and I brought the idea to Grenada. I was like, New England is willing to let me work with Grenada to stay at the national team head coach, and I'll continue to work with Boston. I'll continue to work with New England, and this will give me the opportunity to work with Bruce Arena, who, in my opinion, is the best head coach in the U.S. history. So I was like, this is an opportunity I cannot pass up. And I told them from day one, I'm like, I want to be in Boston. I want to learn from Bruce, but I will dedicate myself to being in Grenada. And New England is willing to do that. And time passed. I didn't hear back nothing. I met with them literally like, let's say March 6th or something like that. We had a meeting the Saturday morning. They called a meeting the Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. I showed up to the office 10 to 9, waited for them to start. I literally stayed 5 hours sitting downstairs waiting for them. 2 o'clock come and no meeting started. I went upstairs around 2 o'clock when they called me. Around 2 o'clock they called me. They literally talked for 5 minutes. Didn't hear anything I liked. Didn't hear anything that I liked. And then that was a Saturday. We met for 5 minutes after waiting for them for 5 hours. I guess they were hungry because then they wanted their lunch upstairs, so they were hungry. Then they ate, and I just left. I didn't hear anything positive or anything reaffirming like the GFA wanted me to come back and coach it. So I slept on it the Saturday night. The Sunday came around, I slept on it, and then once Monday come around, I just decided like the lack of interest and the lack of commitment shown by GFA, I needed to I needed a different chapter. I needed a next chapter in my life, and I decided that I sent my letter over social media, letting everyone know I will no longer be the head coach at Grenada over social media. It wasn't like I told them about it. I begged them, pretty much begged them to let's start talking about renegotiating, and nothing happened. And within 3 days left on my contract, I made a decision. I don't want to be in that situation. I felt like I was being held for ransom after me and my staff brought so much success to Grenada Football Association and Grenada Football in particular that I shouldn't wait 3 days before my contract expired for them to even offer me or for them to even talk about how renewing my contract. So I made the decision that I wanted to go back to America when it was 3 days left on my contract.
Okay. We have some questions that were coming up for you already, but I'm very interested.
Good to
Yeah,
know.
very interesting questions. So I will get into that. Thanks, Clev, for that. But Shari, it appears therefore that you um, give them all, and I'm talking about the Grenada Football Association, all the opportunity because you had intentions, or should I ask whether you had intentions of returning, or whether or not the lack of response by the Grenada Football Association made a decision for you to return to the United States?
I, I think they made the decision they made it easy for me to return to America. I wanted to continue to do what we was doing. Me and my staff, Desmond, Nixon, Anthony Modesta, Jerry, all of them. Jerry got a promotion, so he would have been TV, but they made the decision easy for me to be clear about it. But I wanted 100% committed to coming back to Grenada to continue to coach the national team, and I knew what we accomplished. I didn't want to just stop there. It didn't make no sense when I got into the Gold Cup and got into Group A, where we're going to be playing all those teams like America, Jamaica, all those teams in Group A. I wanted to be a part of that journey. That I wanted to play for Grenada. And when I saw the lack of interest and the lack of commitment from GFA, I felt like it was a slap in my face. I just felt like they didn't show me the love that I deserve, the staff deserve for what we have accomplished. And personally, it kind of hurt, but I understand it was a business, and I made the decision. I can't wait on them to dictate my future. I need to start doing things to prepare for my next chapter in my life.
Okay. And all of that happened at a time when there was a momentum with the national senior team. As we indicated from the start, it wasn't a smooth ride for you as the
Mm,
national coach when you just took over. But then there was this momentum of winning, and as you said, eventually qualifying for the Nations Cup and even a promotion
mm.
within the CONCACAF League. Any regrets about that, Shalrie? I mean, thinking about it now that you're not part of the process, that continued process?
No, no regrets. Honestly, no regrets. I try not to regret too many things in life, and I have one or two I can mention that I regret, but no regrets on that decision. And in terms of momentum, I hear it. I know it. I feel it that we were going somewhere special. I was going somewhere special with that team. I knew it from the last game we played, and I saw how beautiful our local team play, with the exception of AJ. AJ was the only overseas player that was the entire one was the only overseas player that was on that field, and I saw the great local players can be when they're being coached right or thought right or put in the position to win. Especially that last game in Grenada, I saw how the fans reacted. I saw how many people came out to the game, even though the marketing side wasn't as great as it should be. I saw all those things, and in terms of momentum, I wanted us to do more. I even remember going in there a couple of days after and going into GFA office and literally asking them and begging them. I'm like, we have the guys in training now. Let's get another game in December. And then nothing happened. They say literally was we done a lot this year. We don't have the. It was boiled down to we didn't have the energy, or we needed a vacation, and those things played in my mind. They didn't want to schedule another game in December, and I'm like, we have momentum. The players are already in training. I'm not going back to America. I was willing to sacrifice, and which I did. I didn't go back to America. I stayed in Grenada literally till February. I stayed 3 months later. I stayed in November, December, January, and stayed in February. And I was begging for games. I was like, please find me a friendly. Please find me a friendly. We had one with Canada that they turned down for whatever reason because they didn't have the money to pay for it. And this was the start of the new year in January. Then we had another cancellation on a friendly, and I'm like, they don't care enough about soccer, and they started playing thoughts in my head over and over, like too friendly, especially the one against Canada. That one hurt personally because I know who Canada is. Canada is a top team, a top country, and those are the games as a coach, as a player, you want to play, especially against a team like Canada. It's like Canada, America, Mexico, those teams in the CONCACAF region, that area that you need to play. And when I saw when I saw the lack of interest and the lack of commitment from GFA with those games, for whatever reason we didn't get them, and it was Grenada's fault, our fault. I was like, they're not serious enough about soccer, and I started thinking about it and had conversation with some of my staff and even Grenadians. Like, the more success you bring to Grenada, the football team, it's like it's like a failure. It's like it's too much for them. They don't want you to be successful because then they're gonna have to spend money. And I was starting to think like this is true because I was a player and I saw it. The more success we bring to the country, the more success we bring to the national team. It's a financial strain on the GFA, and I was like, they don't really care enough for where I want to take this team. And all those decisions start coming into my head, all those thoughts start coming into my head. And I started writing down these things and started thinking more and started having conversation with my mother and my associates. And they were like, we need to do what's best for you. And when I realized 3 days left on my contract and nothing concrete was given to me, I really needed to get out of Grenada for those reasons.
Well, out of a disclaimer, I should say that Shalrie had reached out to me as well, because as early as 2017, when it came up, you reached out to me and asked me what I thought about it, and I encourage you to get involved to see if you can, give something back to the country. So when it came back to having to make a decision, Shalrie reached out to me again and told me, well, this was his decision. And I told him, well, he knows what's best. He's on the ground, I'm not on the ground, and he has to make that decision. But Shalrie, it's important that you mentioned the GFA. And when we talk about the GFA, we associate it many times with that of Chenny Joseph. You carry the same Joseph. He is actually he's actually your neighbor. You grew up with Chenny, and all the others around. Is it an indictment directly on Chenny or on the GFA as a whole?
I think he's responsible for every decision, and I'm very grateful for him giving me the opportunity to become head coach of Grenada, that land that I love. I'm forever grateful for that opportunity. But I think the buck stops with him. He just needs to make decision, and obviously he has an executive committee because I learned a lot about Grenada politics in soccer when I was down there. I really didn't know all of those. It was politicians that run in Grenada soccer to some extent. But I think the buck stops with him, and he needs to make decisions that are better, that are better for the future of Grenada football in particular. I am grateful for Nixon, Anthony Odes, because even though a lot of things, I made a lot of decisions personally for myself, and you're going to hear about it. That I made decisions, which I am the head coach, so I made a lot of decisions that I thought was best for the football itself. But without Nixon being able to navigate me through those tough waters of the politicians in Grenada football, I would never be able to have success on the field because even I started off very slow, which if you look at my records, the first couple of games, I was in deep water and I didn't really know like this is what I'm getting myself in. And when I got Nixon on board, when I got Anthony Modest on board, he was able to some of the off the field issue, he was able to deal with those things because the way I speak, the way I am, I'm very straightforward, and sometimes I get aggressive in the demeanor because I want things done a certain way. But he was able to deal with those things, especially in the office side or off the field things that I was not able to get. And once he came on board, he was able to deal with those things in a very great light. And like I said, I'm forever grateful. But back to my original thought. I think the box starts with Chenny Joseph, and we obviously not rated, but we not related. But he needs to make decisions that will help Grenada football, and especially the youth in Grenada, because we have so many talented and so many young players that they need fostering and development. And football is only going to get better in the Caribbean and better worldwide. So if you don't start investing in your youth and your programs, we're going to get left behind, and that you're going to see it more and more after the next couple of World Cups.
Okay. Well, I want to go to that question that Clevoy Deputy had asked earlier, and it's very early in the show. He asked this question: any regrets playing professionally for Grenada and not the USA?
Yeah, that's like I mentioned. There's one or two regrets that sometimes people ask me about, and to be straight and honest about it, yeah, I've seen what American soccer. I've seen what playing for the United States has done for players' career, not even half as good as me. I've seen what it's done for player status. I've seen what it's done financially playing for America, and I would love the opportunity to wear that color, that to be American, to play for America soccer. But I'm grateful that my mother was born in Grenada and my father is Grenadian, and they gave me Grenadian blood, and they gave me something that no other person can give me, the love I got from Grenada. I love being a Grenadian. I love my roots. I love my country. And some of the things, even it's one of the things I regret. Obviously, I wanted to play for the U.S. because of those other reasons. But being from Grenada is a special feeling. It's a special bond. The friends that I grew up with, I can never ask for anything else. The friends that I made when I went back home, being a national team coach, and new friends I made, it's a special thing that I would cherish forever in my life, and I have memories that would forever be a part of who I am. But I am grateful that I was born in Grenada.
And you had that opportunity to play professional football in Europe, but turned it down numerous times. Any reason why?
It wasn't per se that I turned it down. The when you're talking about when Celtics came in, there was a couple offer from
Yeah.
European club, and the bid was $1 million, and then it got to a million 5, a million 5, and New England just thought it wasn't enough at that point. They thought it wasn't enough money for a caliber player of my talent and my potential. And I was very young, and I didn't understand how the league worked back then. That I needed to go to the front office and then push up New England and tell them like this is what I want. So I just left it up to New England. Like at some point, they they had they had the best interest in mind for me, and the money they was asking for was a little bit more than Celtic and other clubs was willing to offer. But they understand that I was a good player, and they didn't want to let me go for a certain price. They wanted more and more, and it just got to the point where the other teams didn't feel the need to pay for someone like me. And but New England will be my home. They drafted me, they gave me an opportunity they gave me an opportunity to live out my dreams and pursue the things that I love the most and to feel passionate about, which is soccer. So I'm forever grateful for them drafting me, even though I told them that I wasn't going to come to Boston. They still draft me, and look how things turn out. And you can't really regret those things, but you learn from those experiences, and those are the things that I would love to pass on to a youngster one day. Like what it takes to make it into this league. And when you get the opportunity, if you want to go overseas, really, really be aggressive in your demands if you wanted to go overseas.
Okay. And it seems as if Shalrie, that marriage with the New England Revolution took a turn for the worse at some point in time after giving over a decade of service to the New England Revolution. Um, any regrets again?
Nah, no regrets at all. I love giving my service towards them. When I retired, we definitely didn't have the best relationship with the people in charge for like a year or two, but sometimes things works out in your favor and sometimes things don't. And when I retired, it just wasn't the right time for me to go back there. And I went to the Bolts Academy and I was able to learn from some of the best coaches with Aim Scott and Koolman and Dorman. I was able to learn from those guys at the Bolts Academy, and those 2 years at the academy taught me a lot, and that led me to the Grenada job, which I forever grateful for. But sometimes things work out. It's all about timing, and the timing wasn't right. But I'm grateful I got to play over a decade in New England and made so many new friends and made so many friends, and I got to live out my dreams. There's not a lot of people in this world that get to do what they love and live out their childhood dream and then to be a player for a national team and then coach a national team. I know two players in my history that's done it, and so in two players in the Caribbean that's done it. So I'm forever grateful for that opportunity.
Okay, let's see if we can get it now.
Wow, memories are flowing back. No, that's some cool cut ups. Mhm. Wow.
That was then, Shalrie. That was then, Shalrie.
Oh
That was
wow!
then. Certainly, right?
Thanks
Yeah.
for that trip down memory lane. You made me cry watching that.
Yeah, I know. You bring back. It's not nostalgic indeed. But I guess as much these are the sort of things that will get you back to Boston, get you back with the New England Revolution at Foxborough. That sort of family. And you mentioned a lot about the new leadership. What about the new leadership of the New England Revolution that actually attracted you back to the Revolution outfit?
There was not even a question of the guys that was in charge. It was once I heard the name Bruce Arena, I understand his resume. I knew his resume from top to bottom, and I knew at the next level for me was finding a mentor or a coach that can help me to become a better coach. And once I realized they was making all those changes, not just facility wise, which they did, they got a $35 million stadium. The personnel they started bringing in, the GM, the curtain alpha, and then the changes they was making to the academy. I understand, like I wanted to be a part of that, and the culture they was creating at New England, I knew it was going to be a winning culture. I knew it was going to be something that I can absorb, I can learn, I can educate myself within that department, within the organization. So that's when I knew from that aspect that I wanted to be a coach at some point for those guys, and I wanted to learn under those guys. And when I saw the names, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop smiling because I knew those guys would give me the opportunity, or those guys will allow me to be who I am.
Okay, and what you say, some moment or moments of memory during your time at the MLS, not just the New England Revolution, because you also played for the Chivas. I think you played, well, your last stint was with the FC Dallas. FC Dallas?
Seattle Sounders, and then I came
Seattle
back.
Sounders.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
came back to New England for 1 year,
for
and
one
then,
year.
yeah, and then
Right.
I just walked away. But I
Right.
retired.
So that three teams in all, Seattle Sounders, the Chivas, and the New England Revolution. What would you say would be the your favorite memory from your time in the MLS?
And, there's so many memories I have of just being a professional player and playing in New England in particular. There's so many memories I can think about right now. But just getting to all the finals, I think as a player, as a professional player, you want to get to the pinnacle, and we got there a couple of times with the MLS Cup. We got there 4 times, 5 times in the club history. So I have a lot of memories as a player getting to all those finals and winning those Eastern Conference championship at home and on the road, and being able to celebrate winning the Superliga championship, which was very hard against Houston Dynamo. Those memories are forever. I hold them and cherish them daily. But the biggest part is that I think the joy I had the joy I had playing soccer. I think that's the biggest memory. As you can see from the video clips, you see me sometimes a little bit angry on the field. I'm not angry, but sometimes I'm very demonstrative. I give everything I had when those games comes around. But when you see me, you can see the joy and love I have for the game, whether it be in practice or on the field. Every moment I got to play was something I enjoy, and mostly in practice, you would see me smiling and just making everyone around me better players. But understand how those moments and how those memories are. You don't take them for granted. You just enjoy it as much as you can. And for me, it was always about having everyone around me happy and smile and love what they're doing and coming to work excited to get the opportunity to do what you love. And like I said, there ain't too many people in this world that get to live out their dreams. And I was one of those guys who was very fortunate to work hard and dedicate himself and committed himself to his craft. But I love soccer, and to this day, as a coach now, see it from a different lenses. I started to see it from a different perspective. But I love the game of soccer so much that it's giving me the opportunity to go places, to meet new people, to meet old friends, and to live out another chapter in my life. So I love the game of soccer. I think that's what the memory I would cherish the most about being a professional.
You are a feared defensive midfielder. Any favorite player you played against or play with junior time in the MLS?
Yeah, played against. I think I have a couple of them. I definitely think my all-time favorite player, not all-time favorite player in MLS. I think he was the best player within a certain time span, and is Randy Donovan. I look forward to some of the rivalries we had against them. I remember him being on the field just talking about when he would score a goal and I scored a goal too against him against LA, and he scored another one, and then he started talking trash, and I'm like, you're not getting out of here with a win. So it was like on field battles with him that made it special. Guys like Di Rosario that played in the midfield. He was one of the best goal scorers I've seen. Can hit a ball from distance and so wonderful, such a wonderful talent offensively on the ball. Armando Guevara, guys like that and any attacking player for me, I just wanted to destroy or to nullify them or make sure they didn't have a great game. But I think one of my favorite Grenadian players to play against, and when I came home, I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to play with him, was Patrick Modeste. And that guy is probably the most underrated Grenadian player that went through Grenada football history. And in my definition, he had more talent than even me and a lot of the Grenadians, if not the most talented Grenadian I seen play soccer. And he wasn't able to reach the heights I did, but personally, I think he was one of the best players I got to play with, even though he didn't play professional. And when I get back home, I play with some of my childhood friends like Anthony Modeste, Ricky Charles, who was another exceptional Grenadian talent. We have so much talented players. I think for me, it was playing with those players, even at that age, and then going back at a young age to represent Grenada to play with guys like Jason Roberts and Otis and those guys, having the opportunity to play with those guys now who are so successful in their career. Thinking about it, that I got the opportunity to play with those guys in their prime and their best years and their climatic years. It was such a great honor meeting and playing with these guys, especially.
So, what went wrong, Shalrie? Because we heard you might be too young for that, but in the 70s, Grenada had what it was the best of the subgrouping. Then we had in the 80s, and I know Michael St. John, Mickey St. John, and others will know about that. In the 80s, there was also the Grenada outfit, which, also was top. And then there was this spark yourself and you mentioned and Otis and Jason and Nixon and Patty and uh, Curry and the others. What went wrong that we were not able to keep that core of players at a critical time that could have moved Grenada football to the next level?
That's a very good question, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of things you can touch on, but I think one of the answers for me, and to start off with it, you were right. The 70s, 80s, we can name those players, especially because I grew up watching those players, the Steve Mark, the guys that played Cheney himself, the president, Rudolph Cyrus, all those guys were childhood heroes of mine and probably half of the Grenadian team at that age, at that young age. We watched those guys growing up. We saw how good it was when those guys played and how exciting soccer was. And I think that obviously that draw the passion out of some of us as youngsters. We look up to those guys when they would play the World Cup and when they would play international friendlies at home. And then we had our generation, which we love, and I think we loved the game so much that we played it pretty much every day when I was growing up. It wouldn't be a day; it would be carnival, and we would find a way to play. And it would be Saturday. We would go to church in the morning, and then once grandma says it's okay, once my grandmother say it was okay, a little bit the sun go down around 5 o'clock, 5:30, we would go play, and on a Saturday, and then Sunday morning we get up to play. So our generation played a lot of soccer, and we expressed it in the way we were there every day. I think now the world has changed so much that we need to give these youngsters the opportunity to play the game and then foster their development. I think nowadays they're not enough. they're not getting paid. And at certain age, at certain point, if you're a youngster who's 18, 19, and you have the potential, you have the skills and talent, you need to be getting paid, or you need to be in a development system where literally you're playing for Grenada national team. You're literally getting up and you're just practicing soccer, and then you go to school for a couple of hours, and then you need to be practicing or working on your craft again. I think they need to start investing in the younger players at a very delicate age, at around 15, 16, 17, and putting these youngsters, even at 19, 20, 21, because those guys are still relatively young. You need to put them in some kind of system or some kind of structure where these guys are eating, sleeping, playing soccer, and getting some kind of compensation on the end. Because I understand that it is national team, but you need to compensate your young players in order that would drive them, and they will see this as a goal. If not, they want to go at young age. People want to make money, and if you're not making money for your national team or getting compensated for your national team, then you're not really doing anything.
Are you there? I think we may have just lost Shalrie for a moment. Let me see.
Like, sorry, the phone call off, but
All
I
right.
was saying that they need to invest. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, yes, I'm hearing
Michael,
you,
you can
Shalrie. Yes, I'm hearing you, Shalrie.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Sorry, the boat's moving a little bit again.
Okay, just
but
for those who
from my
probably just joined us, Shalrie is actually on a ship. Okay, he's sailing. Yeah.
Yeah, but my point is, we need to make investments, and we need to do things that would secure our next 10 years of soccer players, our next 6 years of soccer players. Our goal should be 2026 World Cup, and we should start investing and putting these young players in some kind of training facilities where they're literally working on their craft each and every day, and they're getting a couple of days here and there to do what they love, get away from the game of soccer. But we need to start investing into our craft and our young players. And once you start doing that, it's done all over the world. You need to start doing it now, and then in the next couple of years, you'll see the benefits of investing in young players. Because in my estimation, when I got there, I didn't realize how talented our young crop of players was, especially from Stephon Abraham to Lee Braveboy to Josh Gabriel, just to name a few guys, Sergio Lewis. All those guys are like 20, 21, and they didn't even hit their peak yet. And I was like, we need to start doing things to make those young players into superstars one day. And that's the thing, you need to start investing in those players, because our football league, our Premier League, you don't really get challenging on a constant basis. It's great to play the Wagati tournament, which is exceptional, which is exciting, but you need to provide some kind of outlet for these young talented players to foster their talent. If not, their dedication and commitment won't be the same. And it has to be a return from players too. They need to dedicate themselves. But the biggest incentive for a young player right now is great financial gain. And if you can put out two pence in his pocket or put some dollars in his pocket, then he will show that dedication. But right now, it's not being reciprocated from the people in power, from the GFA side. So we lose now a lot of our young talented players to construction, to banking, to hanging out on the beach, things like that. And it's going to be a sad day when we realize how much talent we lose, how much talent we losing now, and how much talent we lost with players that gone through or fall through the system because we weren't able to give them an opportunity to grow and develop their skills.
Okay. Let me get one more again, shall we? We need to get this. I think. Hold on. So we need to get onto the. It's called the. I think it's the actually the. If I'm correct, it's the general. They call it. I don't know why they call you the general. Okay, so you heard it there. Okay, shall we? As Michael St. John will say, midfield general, the bull. Yeah, but shall we? On we getting ready to wrap. We just have less than 10 minutes remaining. But you were on a point there that and I want to ask you: do you think that Grenada and the Caribbean they have what it takes in terms of young players that can make the cut into the MLS outfit.
Yeah, without a doubt, 110%. Like young players in the Caribbean has what it takes to not just to play in the MLS, but in my opinion, to play overseas. I think some of the things that we are lacking, to speak about the things first that we are lacking as players, like as a player that come from the Caribbean, and I grew up a little bit in Brooklyn, and seeing it now as a head coach for the last 2 years, I think is the discipline. Some of the discipline that is needed to become a professional player. I think that's lacking on our part as a Caribbean player, myself and a coach. I think the discipline is lacking, and that if you're not disciplined enough, then it leads you astray. It leads you to different things that's not going to make you live out your dreams. We also the tactical awareness that players are taught at a young age, especially in America and especially in Boston. Being a head coach and working here for the last couple of weeks and months and years, the tactical awareness is not being taught at a young age in Grenada and in the Caribbean. So if you don't understand that when you get to the pros, professional coaches or coaches of professional, they don't want to spend time going through that. Those are things that you're supposed to learn at a young age. Understanding positional awareness, understanding positions. We don't really teach that a lot in Grenada. That was one of the difficult things I had when I first got to Grenada. That they understand where you need to be at a certain time in the game, certain point in the game, where when the ball is where it is, you need to be at a certain point, and that's probably the thing that we're lacking. But in terms of physical specimen and in terms of the attributes that Caribbean players possess, if you look at the EPL now, you'll see all those attributes in players: the skill, the fit, the quickness, the speed, the ability to shoot with left and right foot. We have players like that in the Caribbean. We just need to bring in out more of them, and they need to be taught the game at a young age and really taught the game, not just roll a ball out and tell them play soccer, and that's coaching. We don't do that. They don't do that up here. We really need to spend time on the details to make those players better. And you need the institution, you need the facilities, you need the backing, you need the financial support, you need those things to become stars one day. But most importantly, I think right now you need the structure to have those players learn from coaches in the Caribbean that can help them to develop and achieve their dreams. And you need coaches in the Caribbean that can teach the game. I think some of the coaches in the Caribbean, and this is just my opinion, they need to go to school, they need to go to classes, they need to have license at all level, whether it be Premier League or you're coaching in the Caribbean or you're coaching a national team. There need to be a certain you need to be qualified for to do those jobs. And some of the kids, some of the coaches in the Caribbean that are teaching the kids the game, they're not qualified to coach the kids, and that's some of the problem now. I see it in Grenada. I saw when I was watching the Premier League. You need those kind of you need those kind of teachers. You need those kind of coaches to teach the young kids the game at a young age. But I definitely think we have players in the Caribbean that can play in the MLS pretty much right now. They just need the opportunity. They just need to be seen. And I know they have the MLS combine, but in seeing it the last year and seeing some of the players from Grenada, the Josh and Stefan went, and hearing that they both did well at the combine, and nothing really came out of it. So sometimes you need a little bit of luck. You need the right doors to open to you. But I definitely think we have the players in the Caribbean that can make it in the MLS and overseas in particular.
Okay, and what you think is the future of the MLS in Grenada and the Caribbean in particular? The average footballer, they follow European League, especially the Premier League. But as a former MLS player and still involved in the MLS in some way or the other, what do you see as the future of the MLS in the bigger scheme of things like the Premier League, La Liga? Do you think that probably in the next few years the MLS will rise to that occasion?
Yes, without a doubt, they will. The way they headed and the understanding they have gathered in the last couple of years, and the growth of the league, especially in the last couple of years, we can see they're headed in the right direction. And that's hats off to Don Gaba and his staff and his body of staff, the people that are working with him. They understand what it takes to become a relevant league and one of the best leagues in the world. And the MLS is only 25 years old. It's still young. It's like a baby. It's like an infant stage compared to all those leagues all over the La Liga, the EPL, the German league. All those leagues, they've been around. When you look at them, they're hundreds of years old. They've been around for centuries now. So MLS is on its way. I definitely think the way they have done things a little bit, the way they have done things is very, 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 very good. And they keep growing and they keep getting better. And then the fan support, that's huge in America. America have to have like 4 different major sports with basketball, NFL, hockey, and baseball, obviously. So those soccer have to compete on a high level against those 4 sports that's been around forever. So MLS have to compete with those 4 sports on a weekend basis. So I give my hats off the way they're headed and what they're trying to do, and the growth of the league is going to see in the next 5-10 years. You're going to see more growth. You're going to see more teams enter it. You're going to see players wanting to stay in MLS because they're getting paid at a better they're getting paid as a players overseas, and once you start playing players like you do overseas, then they don't want to leave America. There's no other place that people wants to be right now, and everyone loves America. That it gives you the opportunity, but the pay structure would have to change, and then stadium specific soccer field stadium, you can see the growth of that. So I think MLS is on its way to become one of the best leagues in the world. It's just take a little bit longer than people expected because it's still in its infancy stage and it needs watering, it needs it needs other things to help it get better and to get to where it wants to be, which will be soon, in my opinion.
Okay, well, we're just running out of time now with less than 2 minutes. But Shalrie, I know at the start you talk about, um, your divorce with the Grenada Football Association. But is there any way that you will still assist football in Grenada, even though you're now coaching at the New England Revolution?
Yes, I'm forever a Grenadian. No matter what you say, I'm forever a Grenadian. And the best thing about Grenada is that I want to see Grenada football go forward. So, if there's any way I can help or assist Grenada football and its development and help it to become better and to help players in Grenada, I will do that. I will do that. I will do what it takes if they ask me to help Grenada football. But I personally, I would love to see a lot of things change so like Grenada football the ranking can be better, the football in Grenada can be better so the people can enjoy it more and just the development and give players the opportunity, whether it be as coach, give young coaches in Grenada the opportunity to learn and to excel and to do the things to make them better coaches. And then give young players the opportunity to live out their dreams. I think the more you can do that, the more you'll see success, and you won't see it on like just a Grenada level. You'll see it in a Caribbean level and a global level. The success like Grenada, a small island like Grenada, can produce someone like me. You'll see it such on a global level if you can do the right things to make the football better in Grenada and foster the development of young players.
Okay, then. Thank you very, very much, Shalrie Joseph. It has been a pleasure, and happy sailing. I know you're off the coast of Nantucket. It should be windy. I think I saw a storm. What? That's heavy waters, man. Rough waters.
Yeah.
Right. But thank you. I really appreciate, and to Cleve Depredine and Nikki St. John and all the others, Ren Sam and all the others who provided some comments. Thank you very much. Next week we have Aaron Pierre, who will be joining us out of England, followed by basketballer Kevin Cox, and then Kirani James to wrap up the month of July with our Talk Sports. But thank you once again, Shalrie Joseph, and all the best.
Thank you, Michael. I really appreciate you giving me this platform to speak on just my future and Grenada soccer in particular. And keep doing what you're doing. We need voices. We need people to bring spotlight on what's going on in Grenada and just give us an opportunity to speak on behalf of Grenada and just hear the people comments. It feels great. Thank you again. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, Shalrie Joseph, and thank you to everyone. And once again, on next week's program, we have professional footballer Aaron Pierre, and then we have basketballer Kevin Cox and track star Kiran James. Once again, thank you very much, Kiran. Shalrie.
You're welcome.
Okay.